Open your eyes, and congratulations! You've officially beaten the game of existence. You are Mark Grayson. You didn't just survive a gauntlet of intergalactic genocides, you personally caved in the skull of Grand Regent Thrag, stopped a 1,000-year war, and now you're sitting on the throne of the most powerful empire in the history of the cosmos. You've got a loving, immortal wife, children who carry on your legacy, and a galaxy that hails you as its messiah. You are the official GOAT, Tiger. Give yourself a pat on the back, because the next 500 years are about to turn your life into one long, oxygen-deprived episode of Black Mirror. And here's the delicious irony nobody tells you at the coronation. Every single person who ever believed in you, every human who looked up at the sky and thought, "That's our guy," is going to be dead before you even hit your first century. Your therapist? Dead. Your high school gym teacher? Dead. The barista who knew your order? Dead, dead, dead. You are the ultimate survivor of a race that doesn't know how to lose, and that is absolutely, categorically a curse. But here's the kicker. Mark the hero is effectively dead. To save the galaxy, you've performed a total ideological lobotomy. You aren't the friendly neighborhood superhero in spandex anymore. You are the CEO of a galactic violence corporation that just went through a very expensive rebranding. Welcome to the future of the Viltrumite Empire, where your kindness is just a more polite form of totalitarianism, and your immortality is a solitary confinement cell measured in centuries. Think about what that rebranding cost you. You buried the kid who punched bullies to protect his friends. You buried the teenager who cried in his bedroom after his first kill. You buried the young man who just wanted to go to college, maybe play football, maybe take a girl to prom. All of that, gone. Replaced by a title, a mandate, and a uniform that never gets dirty because nothing in the galaxy dares to touch you anymore.
If you thought ruling an empire meant giving cool speeches and flying into the sunset, you clearly didn't read the fine print on the Viltrumite Charter. You've reformed the empire. Instead of conquest and extermination, you now deal in moderation and assistance. It sounds like a humanitarian dream, until you realize you've created a benevolent dictatorship. You spend your decades flying from planet to planet, telling alien cultures to change their way of life because it doesn't fit your definition of peaceful. If they refuse to stop their traditional wars or change their social structures, you use your godlike power to make them comply. You have become exactly what Robot was on Earth, but on a universal scale, policing the free will of trillions for their own good. Your life is now a clinical routine of suppressing planetary sovereignty, and the galaxy doesn't love you. They are just too terrified of your mustache to say no. And here's the philosophical gut punch nobody warned you about. You are a good person doing a genuinely evil thing, and you know it. Every morning you wake up, put on the cape, fly to some planet where the locals are doing something you disapprove of, and you park your invulnerable body in their sky until they comply. You call it diplomacy, they call it the shadow of Viltrum. The difference between you and Thrag isn't the body count, it's the PR team. Thrag never pretended. You do. Every single day. There's even a bureaucratic infrastructure now. Viltrumite administrators, compliance officers, galactic peacekeepers who carry your logo on their uniforms like a brand seared into leather. You didn't just conquer the galaxy, you franchised it. And every outpost with your crest on the wall is a monument not to peace, but to the memory of what happened to the last civilization that told you no.
Let's talk about your happily ever after with your wife, Eve. In the finale, Eve eventually dies of old age, a natural, human end, right? Wrong. Her powers act as a biological failsafe, reconstructing her body from the cellular level and restoring her to a woman in her late teens every time she dies. This isn't a romantic miracle, it's a biological prison. While you slowly age over 5 centuries, your wife is trapped in a permanent loop of adolescence and resurrection. Every few decades, you have to watch the person you love reboot, potentially losing parts of her human identity each time her brain is re-atomicized. Your marriage has become a Vault-Tec experiment that never ends, where you are the aging warden and she is the immortal prisoner of her own DNA. Consider the mathematics of that grief for a second. Say Eve's cycle runs every 60 to 70 years, a natural human lifespan before her body resets. In 500 years, you watch her die and come back roughly 7 or 8 times. 7 or 8 funerals for the same person. 7 or 8 introductions to a woman who has your shared history filed somewhere in a brain that just spent a week being reconstructed from raw matter. Does she remember the inside jokes? Does she remember the exact weight of the silence breaking you during your worst fights? Or does she get a greatest hits compilation and a vague emotional echo where the real memories used to be? And what does that do to you? At some point, maybe the 3rd reset, maybe the 5th, you stop grieving and start anticipating. You start pre-mourning. You look at the woman you love and somewhere in the back of your Viltrumite brain, a clock is already ticking. That's not a marriage anymore. That's a beautiful, heartbreaking subscription service you can never cancel.
Your children aren't just your family. They are high-performance genetic assets for the brand. Take your daughter, Tara. You've raised her to be an intergalactic relief worker, but she's essentially the face of the Empire's PR department. She spends her youth in gladiator pits, proving to savage cultures that she could kill them all but chooses not to, just to maintain the image of Viltrumite restraint. Let's sit with that for a moment. You put your daughter, in an arena and let her absorb the hatred of an entire civilization so that you don't have to. You've turned her childhood into a series of controlled near-death experiences dressed up as diplomacy. Tara didn't choose this job. She was born into it like royalty, like a conscript, like a brand ambassador who never got to submit a resume. The Empire gets a symbol. Tara gets PTSD with a smile. And then there's Marcus Murphy, your illegitimate son, a living reminder of Anissa's assault on you. You brought him into the fold, rebranding him as Kid Invincible to join the Guardians of the Globe. You aren't being a father, you're managing a Vault-style superhero lineup. You've turned your trauma into a marketing tool, ensuring that the Grayson bloodline remains the dominant force in the galaxy long after your human friends, like William and Art Rosenbaum, have turned to dust. The real tragedy of Marcus isn't what he is, it's what he represents. Every time you look at him, you see the single worst moment of your life wearing your face and flying in your slipstream. Every time the galaxy sees them, they see continuity, legacy, stability. The Empire spins the narrative, and the narrative is the Graysons are eternal. Behind closed doors, the man under the title is just a father who never fully processed his own victimization, outsourcing his healing to a kid who didn't ask to exist.
You thought the coalition of planets were your allies? The second you became too good at your job, the coalition became obsolete. Under Alan the Alien, the organization that once fought for freedom turned into a corrupt, bloated bureaucracy that began starving member worlds to feed its own elite. What was your peaceful solution? War. You went to war with your best friend Alan to force him to disband the coalition. You destroyed the only democratic hope the galaxy had left because it didn't meet your moral standards. Think about the optics of that for 1 second. You, the hero, the chosen one, the guy who bled for freedom, declared war on the organization that was literally built to resist empires like the one you now run. Alan didn't become a villain. He became inconvenient. And inconvenience in your galaxy gets a very particular response. You are now the personnel class D of your own story, an elite janitor cleaning up the mess of freedom with a fist that can shatter moons. You traded the chaos of democracy for the silence of a graveyard, and you call it prosperity. And Alan,
He probably still remembers the kid from Earth who punched him in the face for fun on their first meeting and called it a friendship. He probably still thinks of you that way, somewhere underneath the resentment and the defeat. And that's the part that really twists the knife. You didn't lose Alan to ideology. You lost him to competence. You became too good at being an emperor. And emperors, they don't have best friends. They have former best friends, which is a lonelier category than enemies.
In the end, you reach the 500-year mark your father once told you about. He asked, "What will you have after 500 years?" You look around, and the answer is haunting. You have a galaxy that is perfectly silent, a family that cannot die, and a soul that is completely empty. All your human connections, your mother Debbie, your friend William, are centuries gone. Their entire lives having lasted as long as a commercial break in your perspective. You are the friendly neighborhood emperor of a universe that doesn't have neighbors anymore, only subjects. You have fulfilled Nolan's original mission better than he ever could, turning the lie of a benevolent Viltrum into a cold, hard reality. You won, Mark, but you're the only one left on the scoreboard. Here's the deepest cut of all. Nolan Grayson, Omni-Man, the man who lied to you for 17 years, the man who beat you half to death in a crater and asked you what you were going to do about it. Nolan was right about the math. He just had the wrong solution. He looked at the lifespan equation and concluded that human connections were a liability. You looked at the same equation and concluded they were worth everything. 500 years later, the connections are all gone anyway. You just suffered more on the way to the same destination. You chose love, and love chose mortality. And mortality chose to leave you here, alone, in an empire shaped perfectly to the mold of your grief. The galaxy is fed. The galaxy is safe. The galaxy turns its eyes upward and sees the silhouette of Invincible against the stars, and feels, if not love, then at least the comfortable absence of fear. And you float there, in the quiet above the atmosphere of whatever world you're currently managing, and you think about a kid in a blue and yellow suit who just wanted to make his dad proud. And somewhere in the arithmetic of 5 centuries, that kid became the very thing his father always knew he would become. Not a monster. Something more efficient. Something more permanent. Something that traded the noise of being human for the silence of being eternal. But hey, at least your cape still looks majestic in the vacuum of space, right? And unlike literally everyone you've ever loved, the cape never ages. Subscribe to the channel if you want to find out how you die on every Marvel planet, why it sucks to be a Halo Spartan, or what happens to the DC universe when Superman finally gets tired. Then I'll see you in the next one. Stay invincible. You don't really have a choice.